everyone. Welcome to my LinkedIn Live. I love doing these because it gives me an opportunity to talk to someone live, someone who's got an interesting background and can share some insight with my audience. So I'm really delighted to introduce you to Johanna van Doorn, and she's the head of marketing at Membrain. I'm delighted to have you on the show, Johanna. How are you?
Thank you. I'm fine. I'm really honored to be invited to your show. So thank you very much. Love to be here.
Amazing. I know you've not long come back from holiday, and you said that was amazing as well, that you had a good time, yeah?
Yeah, super nice. I mean, the summer in Sweden, that's always something you look ahead for and enjoy as a cold Swede.
Fantastic.
Mm.
Look, I know that you've got over 15 years of working in marketing, and
Yeah.
marketing is one of those areas that changes so much. There's always something new, new technology, consumer behavior changes, and so on. So share a little bit about your career journey so far over the last 15 years.
Yeah. So I started on the creative side of marketing at a digital agency, doing lots of artwork and retouch and stuff like that for marketing purposes. And that
Mhm.
was back in 2002. So it's actually like 20 years ago.
Wow.
And my kind of biggest learning from that part is to be very curious about careful about keeping deadlines
Mm-mm.
and understand the expectation of the customer. So after that, a couple of years, I decided to join a company within the tourism industry, a company that sold sightseeing tours and conferences and events and that kind of services. So I joined the in-house team at that company. That was really my first real marketing experience, so to say. So I learned a lot about marketing, even though that was almost 20 years ago. So it was kind of a different scene of marketing compared to today. And after that, I continued my marketing journey. I really enjoy working with marketing. So I took a position as a marketing manager at the small hotel group. That was in 2007. And that was my first role within pure B2B sales. In my first position, where I had the overall responsibility for the marketing initiatives for the entire company. So
Wow.
I was part of the leadership team, and I learned a lot about how a business works and how to align your strategy between departments and create the joint plan. So that was really a big learning experience for me. So, and after that, continued with another role as a marketing manager at a software company, selling 3D CAD and CAD related products to the manufacturing industry. Uh, but at that time, in 2011, licensing was like perpetual licenses, and we were delivering DVD boxes. So
Okay.
it was kind of a different situation. But I had a pleasure to stay at that company for 10 years. So
Mm.
I joined a really intense growth, both on the company side, but also on the marketing team side. So I learned how important certain things are when you grow and to keep the efficiency of the marketing department. So it was last year that I decided, or actually had the opportunity to move and join the team at Memory. So yeah, that's really excited. I'm still excited about being a
Still
part of that.
enjoying it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
and
And
so
for people listening, what does Membrane do?
yeah, Membrain is a sales enablement CRM. That's the product. So our mission is to elevate the sales profession by doing things a bit differently than, or I would say not a bit,
A lot
differently
differently.
than a lot differently, yeah, than other traditional CRMs have done it in the history. So yeah, we have another focus of how we think efficient sales team should work.
Yeah. No, it's
Uh,
it's great because I think out of all the CRMs. And I've worked with different CRM software over my career. I've come from a technical background and I've worked in some sales roles and marketing roles. And so I've, used things like Salesforce and Capsule
Mm,
and even HubSpot CRM. And we currently use Membrain. So I find that this is the first time that I've had a CRM that I am in every day, that I want to go into every day.
mm,
And it's literally always open on my computer because it's just such an enabling tool to help move opportunities from one stage to the other and to
mm.
give those reminders, give that clarity, and to allow us work closely as a team and really support those opportunities and those leads. So, yeah, I absolutely second what you said. It's definitely an enabling tool and it's definitely
Yeah.
different from your typical tools out there. Um, Anyone who's listening right now, thank you for joining. I can see we've got sort of 14 people. Feel free to say hello in the chat, tell us where you're listening from, ask questions of myself or Johanna, contribute, feel free to completely interact. We'll be delighted to hear from you. Johanna, I wanted to go to the next question because, you said over 15 years in your career, but actually it's more like 20.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that was kind of before marketing actually started. So
that's before
I
marketing
think,
actually
yeah,
started.
yeah.
Exactly. Which is why I have my next question around,
Mm,
what has been the biggest change that you've seen,
yeah.
since you've become a marketer, over the last
Yeah, I know. I don't know
decade?
even because there's been so much that had changed during these years. When I started to prepare for this, I kind of wrote down things that I came up with that has changed, and it's like everything has changed basically. Uh, but so when I started, the focus was like buying ads in newspapers, buying radio commercials, very expensive outdoor billboards. And as for Sweden, the most expensive ones was the one in the subway, where you are having this big, big billboard in front of everyone. And I remember a certain time my former boss told me that the website, on the website you can write whatever you like because nobody really cares what's on the website, but in the ad, especially the ad in the newspaper, the big buzzword, it has to be right. So, and it has to be there every Sunday. So that was kind of a different environment. And also from my perspective, at that point, marketing was disconnected from the sales team and often perceived as the department that costed money, because it was really hard to see the ROI of the marketing investments. So that was a big thing that was different. And when I took a step, this was about 2010 something, around there. I could see a shift into more digital space. The focus was more on expanding the digital presence. And even though we still printed customer magazines and stuff like that, we had more focus on digital. And I think that's sometime around there when sales and marketing came a little bit closer to each other. And when the marketing became measurable, it became more interesting for the business and yeah, get more resources and stuff like that. So yeah, big shift. Much have happened
Yeah.
over 12, 20 years.
As you were talking about, I guess, the past and marketing and sales not being so much aligned, and marketing
Mm,
really, I guess, getting a hard time. And in my experience in marketing, always feeling like you have to justify your existence is the way I
yeah,
describe it, like
yeah. Mm,
constantly justifying your existence. And I
mm,
think that's still very true in a lot of
yeah, yeah.
industries and a lot of companies. And you're absolutely right. It's getting, the gap is closing in where it's more
Mm,
measurable. Sales and marketing have an opportunity to work closer together. But, I think we've now evolved into an age where we've started talking about sales enablement, which I feel
mm,
like it's almost like an answer to this gap
yeah.
between sales and marketing that we often
Mm,
see. It's almost like sales and marketing needed a helper
mm,
to bring them together. And so it's a term that we've seen a lot, sales enablement, and we as a company have embraced it as really what we are all about. But I think
mm,
it's a term that is still catching on in Europe and in
Yeah.
the UK, it's quite a common term in the US. I think
Mm.
it's understood. How would you describe sales enablement?
Yeah. I mean, sales enablement is a hard one because it's really broad. And when it comes to a software, if you mean some software, it, I mean, it helps sales team to enable their sales and increase the growth. But that can be done in like 1 trillion ways. So you have to really scratch the surface and see what's behind. Uh, yeah, Membrain's take on sales enablement is, I would say, supporting sales team by guiding them to the right behaviors instead of logging data. And yeah, I mean, using the human resources in a way where humans add value,
Mm,
when it's about, adding, building relationship, listen, understand, and then use tech for automated stuff that doesn't need like human interpersonal skills.
yeah,
So, and I would say that sales enablement isn't replacing marketing, but marketing has a shared space within sales enablement. So sales and marketing are kind of looking to do the same thing, but we have different roles in achieving that goal. So we are at the same scale. Marketing, like in the beginning, often, and then sales takes over, and then maybe back to marketing again. So it's a grayscale journey where we both have a role. But it's
yeah,
not like sales enablement is only sales and marketing is something else.
yeah. It reminds me of a bit of a relay race. You know, sales
Mm.
does something, passes over to marketing, and it comes back, and then it goes, and it's really a team effort. You know,
Yeah.
and I think when we think about sales enablement, sometimes there's maybe a great focus on the tools, on the
Mm.
technology that enables sales,
Mm.
but there's a huge human factor to sales enablement, which is really about, like you said, enabling the sales teams to do the right things, to take on certain behaviors and make them habit. And that's where I think a tool like Membrain comes in, because yes, it's a piece of technology, but it's actually
Mm.
built in this human factors into it, which means that it kind of ticks the boxes on people's behavior and getting that to be
Mm.
mainstream in process, because you can build the best process and method in the world if people are not actually doing it,
Mm.
and doing it in a consistent way. It's not good enough if they're doing it sometimes and not doing it other times. If
No,
they're doing it in a
exactly.
consistent way, then you can say you've actually got a process. But if it's just done sometimes, then it's like, well, it's a project which
Mm.
came to an end because not everyone's doing it all the time. So we
Yeah,
said
yeah.
sales enablement isn't replacing marketing or indeed sales. And so, what could you explain what the role of marketing is in companies that are looking to drive sales enablement? What's marketing's role in this?
Yeah, I mean, marketing's role is to support sales, in my opinion, and to support sales to reach the overarching business goals. So once and again, alignment with the sales team is super important, and we need to understand from sale information from sales, but also by doing research, what are the ideal customer profile and what are the target audience and where do we find them, and how, in which group should we raise awareness to be able to put an ad or content in front of our audience so that sales can go in later and sell to that person. So it's a teamwork, and marketing's role is to understand the need of sales, the need for the salespeople, and also to understand what needs to be done before sale can start to work with a prospect. What we need to prepare this prospect with before starting. And also I've seen now with SaaS companies, kind of evolving area within the customer retention side. That wasn't the case when we had like perpetual licenses and sales team could like lay back and relax once the deal was signed. Now that we have an ongoing process where marketing also comes in with like nurturing existing customers to make them feel good about the product and give them content and give them updates about the product and everything like that to also keep the customer. So
Yeah.
I would say like marketing is in the beginning, and then the sales comes in a linear journey, and then marketing comes in again, and continue to nurture the customer. So yeah, I really can see marketing and sales together in the near future, working even closer.
Working even closer, yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think what you said about sales enablement covering a lot of aspects is because
Mm.
marketing and sales do cover a lot of aspects. If we focus on marketing for a second, I'm sure you've had this, Johanna. When I moved into marketing, so you can imagine me, a youngish engineer, moving into marketing, being absolutely terrified by how abstract it was,
Mhm.
like fluffy, and just people not really being able to share the numbers in a way that I felt was concrete. So
Mm.
coming in there, and then seeing that marketing wasn't actually one thing. So things that are put under the umbrella of marketing, Joanna, would be like, creating brochures, creating digital ads, SEO, writing
Mm.
blogs, PR,
Yeah.
web analytics, um, graphic design,
Mm.
video editing, like all these things are just put under marketing. And so it's
Yeah.
understandable that then sales enablement, again, it's a similar thing. All these things are under sales
Yeah.
enablement. So, in what do you focus on out of all those buckets of things? What do
Hmm.
you focus on when it comes to supporting sales enablement as a head of marketing?
I focus on now we have a goal as a company, and my focus is obviously to contribute to that overarching goal. So in my case, it's once and again that tight collaboration with the sales team, and to really understand their needs, and where we can um, contribute with marketing content or ads or awareness or doing events, or where can we contribute in the best way to reach the overarching business goals. That what I say is the marketing's role within the sales enablement collaboration.
And can you share one or two things that you do to drive that continuous communication and collaboration? Like some practical things, like is it regular meetings? Have you got like a SharePoint or a hub where there's information shared? Is there like a weekly newsletter? Like
Mm,
how one or two things that you're doing to keep tightly aligned with sales?
yeah, yeah, yeah. We have discovered that we need to keep the activity cadence up from the company. So we've started to we actually start right now. So I I had said that we were planning to do a monthly campaign to keep the cadence up, and that sometimes it is a webinar, sometimes it's a content piece of content that we push extra hard and align all kind of channels behind that, and sometimes it's an event, but we have to do something each month, and to align that activity with the sales team, so that everybody's aware on their role when it comes to this specific campaign. Who's gonna call the customers? Who's gonna invite them? Who's gonna create the lists? What are the target group, and how are we going to follow up on this?
Mm.
So uh, that's how we kind of attack this.
Yeah, that's great. I feel like there is definitely a key role there around keeping the sales people accountable, and
Mm,
also being the wind under the wings
yeah.
of the salespeople. And I think that that's
Mm,
definitely a really key support that they need.
yeah. Yeah.
To everyone that's listening now or later, thank you for joining us. If you've got any questions or you want to react to any of the things we're saying, feel free to do that in the chat. I can see a lot of interaction in the chat. Thanks to Beth and Nicholas and Adebisi and Professor Imafidon and Alfred. So everyone who's interacting, thank you very much. Do feel free to continue to put those comments in or ask us questions as we go. So I want to get into Membrain, right? So one
Mm,
of the ways we can describe Membrain is as a sales enablement tool. So
yeah.
we've touched briefly on how it supports salespeople quite broadly, but
Mm,
can you describe what tools like Membrain do that makes them a highly supportive tool for salespeople?
yeah. Yeah. So what Membrain does is that Membrain supports the sales process in a way that I haven't seen before. So every company has a sales process, and they often have like best practices. They have a sales guy that's really successful that does this and this and that. But often they haven't that documented somewhere, so that they can um, onboard a new salesman with that, or saleswoman with that process, and kind of share the knowledge and share the experience. But with Membrain, you can really put that process into the CRM system, so that everybody knows, like, yeah, the best practice of a sales process for this company is you do this certain steps in these certain stages, and then you can iterate the process ongoing based on your learnings, and make it like an alive process that you constantly improve. And by having those steps, the salespeople are guided to do the best thing. It's not that it's an AI that kind of calculates what to do. It's more of like, yeah, we know this is important for closing a deal. We know that we have to talk to X, Y, and Z stakeholders, and we know that we need to check the time frame of this deal or something like that. And we have that built into the process. So that's kind of the guidance that we make sure we prepare everyone in the best way. And that's also, we have also a built-in qualification kind of calculation. So we know that the forecast is kind of what we look at is what we have. It's not a bloated pipeline or something like that. So it gives many benefits to really be that transparent. So yeah, that's Membrain, focusing on behavior, not data.
Yeah. And even for companies that already have a CRM in place, maybe like Salesforce or
Mm,
something else, Membrane absolutely still has a place in there because, Salesforce is fantastic. And most of the companies I work for have used Salesforce. But
mm,
we probably both agree, and people listening might agree as well, that it's a beast of a tool, right? I mean,
mm,
it's absolutely massive, and it's great for management looking to understand what the sales team is doing, what's in the pipeline. But
yeah.
it's not doing what you've described. Certainly not in an easy way, like actually
Mm,
enabling the sales to the salespeople.
yeah,
Because I
yeah.
hear two particular, I guess, value propositions when I listen to what you're saying about Membrane. Is one is the scalability of behaviors, being
Mm,
able to take a behavior and instead of it to just be a beep, something that somebody does, it's actually scaled where everyone does it because it's in the process now, it's embedded. This is how we want you to behave, and we're
mm,
helping you to behave that way. So there's a scalability of that. And then the
mm,
second thing is the predictability of revenue, being able
mm,
to look at patterns, how long things are in a certain stage, and when there's a certain group of activities done together, how does that impact how an opportunity moves from one stage to the other or not. And so that's something that I think, even if you've got an existing CRM tool, having Membrane on top of that is still of significant value. And I'm sure you've seen
mm.
a lot of your clients maybe having Salesforce and also having Membrane on top of that. Is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's true. Membrane is can be a part of Salesforce if you have that.
Yeah.
Um, but also one I think important thing is that every company and have their own methodology and their own process. So we think that it's really important that the process is customizable, so that you can put in your best practice that works for your particular business. And that's something that I have been struggling with in the past too. I had to follow like that CRM's methodology, and that was not always the case in my business, in my company. So that's a big strength in Membrain. I feel that you can really put in your own process into it.
Yeah, add a bit of personality
Yeah,
to
yeah.
the sales process. Absolutely. Great. So I wanted to round off with one important advice. Like if you had to give one piece of advice to someone leading marketing in their organization that wants to have significant impact on revenue operations,
Mm.
what would that piece of advice be? What would you say?
Oh, it's kind of simple, but hook up with the sales team and create your shared goals. I would say that's the most important thing. And to add a little tweak to that is like make sure that you always add value in the marketing, because if
Yeah.
you do that, it's a long-term success factor instead of one-time
Yeah.
blowups. Hmm.
No, I love that. Hook up with the sales team and always seek to add value. So if
Yeah.
we stay on hook up with the sales team first, some of the ways that we can hook up with the sales team could be could be meetings, regular meetings.
Mm.
It could be some kind of newsletter. And what we've done actually in our business, we've set up a task force, a sales enablement task force. So
Yeah.
SET, I do like my acronym. So Sales Enablement Task Force is SET. So everyone talks about SET a lot here. And yeah, and it's a way for the team to hook up with sales
Mm.
and to help hold sales accountable for certain
Yeah.
opportunities. It's to help find opportunities, and in that conversation, people who are not in sales are learning more about sales. With
Mm.
they're hooking up with salespeople and understanding the sales process. Because what amazes me is,
Mm.
not everyone in marketing really understands the sales process, and so they might be very good at creating content
Mm.
and keeping up the branding and so on. But when it comes down to how that's actually impacting the progress of an opportunity from one point to the other,
Yeah.
it's not always clear for marketing people, especially if they're quite new in marketing or new in their
Yeah,
career.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
true, it's true. And also to clarify the expectations so that sales have the right expectations of marketing and marketing have the right expectation on sales. So
yeah,
yeah, what do we expect sales to do with the leads we deliver, and
yeah,
vice versa? What can we expect marketing to do for us?
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's really important.
I think that's really important because there are a lot of memes, and probably people listening now and listening to this later have heard them or seen them, where it's like most of the leads that marketing pass to sales, they don't even look at them,
Yeah,
and that
exactly.
and
Yeah,
that's
I've
a
heard
little
it
bit
so
of
many times.
marketing
Yeah.
fault and a little bit of sales fault, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
getting
That's
hyper
such a
relevant. It's
truth.
getting
Yeah.
hyper relevant so that
Mm,
sales don't
yeah,
ignore our leads,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it's really interesting. And as someone who's worked on the marketing side and sales side, I can absolutely see both sides of it. Like I
Mm,
absolutely
yeah,
get it. Like sales don't want to be wasting their
absolutely.
time.
Mm,
But I will say that trying to do sales without the proper marketing is
mm,
really a Herculean task.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah.
marketing, the salespeople that think they don't need marketing, they're really trying to conquer the world on their own,
Mm,
which
yeah,
is an impossible. And
yeah.
having really good marketing without the sales piece, you're just really shooting in the dark, and you're
Mm,
staying on the top of the funnel here, and
yeah.
you're not progressing things through and actually going in there and asking for the business, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so
Exactly.
definitely hook up with your sales team. And then in
Mm,
terms of adding value, you can only add value, like you were saying, having those aligned goals. You can only add
mm,
value if you know what someone's goal is. Yeah, like
yeah, yeah.
what are the challenges? What's standing in the way of them achieving
Mm,
their goals? That's the only way you can actually add value. So once you understand that as a marketing team, that you can provide collateral,
mm,
resources, campaign ideas, data that will actually add value to the sales team. So
yeah, yeah. Exactly.
thanks for sharing that. We have
Mm,
one question which we can take before we round
yeah.
up. So, what's Membrain's applicability in a B2B setting? So, that's a hot one
Mm,
for you.
yeah, yeah. What do you mean by
So,
applicability? Yeah.
I think what he means is, can you use Membrain if you're in the B2B sector? I think
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
answer is
yeah.
absolutely yes.
Membrane
It's created for B2B.
yeah, it's created for
Um,
B2B. So
Absolutely.
it's created for complex sales within B2B. So that's the sweet spot for Membrane.
Yeah.
So if you work with transactional sales, you don't need Membrane basically. But if you have a complex sales cycle or many stakeholders, or yeah, a more complex sales, then Membrane is good for you.
Fantastic. And
Yeah.
as someone who uses Membrain at
Mm,
DBC, just to build on that, as someone who uses Membrain in the B2B setting, I'll say if you've got longish sales cycles, so
mm,
it's quite a consultative sale, and you've got multiple stakeholders, like Johanna said, you've got a few different people in the organization there that you do need to kind of engage with and have touch points. If you are applying some social selling where you're, for instance, going into places like LinkedIn and doing research and identifying opportunities, it's a really good platform. If you don't have thousands of leads. You have, really a smallish number of leads, but you don't need thousands of leads. You just kind of move on. You just kind of move your opportunities forward and close the sale, and it might go for many months, but it's not thousands and thousands of transactional leads. It's really a handful of leads that you are needing to be able to close. So what we'll do is, if you would like to connect with myself or with Johanna, I want to find out more about Membrain, absolutely feel free to do that. Send us a message, connect with us. I will put a link to the Membrain platform on this thread, so everyone who is attending this event and who has commented will be able to see that in a little while. So feel free to go there and learn a little bit more about what Membrain does. If you've got questions around marketing and marketing's role in sales enablement, please do feel free. So even though we close this live, we can still see the thread, and that's going to still continue going, so we can answer questions. And I'm sure, Johanna, you don't mind us coming back to you and sending some
No,
questions.
absolutely. Feel free to reach out to me too. I'm looking forward to it.
Fantastic. Thank you. So thank you everyone for engaging. Thanks for joining me today, Johanna. I really appreciated the time
Thank
with
you.
you. Thanks everyone. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.